Hey there, and welcome to this workshop on retro style design and animation in motion design. My name is Cameron, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today because we are going to dive into some really fun stuff. And this is a style that's dear to my heart. I absolutely love it. Every time I see this kind of stuff, it just gets me jazzed up. And it's just fun. It's fun to create, it's fun to watch, all around fun. So, in this first lesson here, we're going to talk briefly about how to get inspired when we want to create a retro style design or animation in motion design. And retro style can go a lot of different ways, but what I'm choosing to focus on today is more of what I'm calling the 80s. Great generation, a great decade, I should say, of motion of design, right, in TV and film. And so that's what we're going to focus on today in this workshop. So how do I get inspired to create retro animation design? I start by building out mood boards. So here we are inside of Pinterest, and Pinterest is a great place to create mood boards. If you are not familiar with Pinterest, get familiar with it because it's very, very powerful. And what we have here is just a board. I've called it the 80s, and inside this board, I have 112 pins, and these pins continue to grow as I find more imagery that I like, that appeals to me. I just add them to these boards. So you can see here, I look at a lot of different things here when I'm looking for inspiration, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. I just find imagery that appeals to me and stick it in the board. So some people could look at this and say, okay, all this kind of stuff really goes well together, but then there's like this kind of image here that's more neon based and it doesn't seem to fit the style so much. But in my opinion, it does because of the color palette, right? So there's a way that you could take, I look at this image and I say, okay, it's not retro per se, but I could take this type of color palette and kind of give it a retro vibe and make it look retro. So I look at this more of like the colors and the shape, right? And this like tunnel. And we will go into an exercise where we create something that's inspired by this. So I'll go back here. I'm also looking at things like textures. So I've got this image actually pulled up further on down here, but we'll go ahead and just click it now. And I look at this because I really liked the sun or the moon. It almost kind of has a moon vibe because it looks like it's almost like kind of night, but we'll say it's a sun. I like the moving lines. You see this a lot, but it's a really, it's very interesting to watch. And just having these very simple lines kind of coming down the shape of the moon or the sun. I like that a lot. I also like the kind of texture that's kind of going around the grain, maybe the film dust, we could call it. That's kind of like flickering on here. There's little spots. You can see it down here a lot over the black. I like that a lot. I also like how the type game over, it's got kind of this glow vibe going on, but it's also pulsing, right? You can see this pulsation happening. It's getting brighter and darker, brighter, darker, like that. I also like the color palette a lot. So it's something that's inspiring to me. That's why I added it. So we can take a look at this here. This is pretty cool just because of the color scheme that's going on, the color palette. It's kind of washed out. It's got that old VHS look. And you see the VHS look a lot in retro style animation, but we are going to show a little bit of that and kind of do our own thing as well. So here, this one's great with colors. I like this one a lot right here because of the type. It's just got that really cool 80s type, with Tron and the WWF and Terminator and Genesis Thundercats, just fun stuff. Again, you can click on that and you can see it gives you more suggestions here in Pinterest of what it thinks you might like based on this image. This one's really cool as well with the type. Just some really fun retro 80s style type. Like this image a lot because of the colors, right? So it just gives me some inspiration of like, hey, these are some different color palettes I could try out. I could scroll down here, find some other ones that work as well. Let's back it up again. Here's a really cool tunnel. I see a lot of tunnels in retro stuff, which is really cool, and we'll do a little bit of that today. Here we come back to the sun and the lines to the sun. You see also lots of glows, and that's what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for common design assets that are used to make that retro vibe. So we see a lot of glows, glow, glow. I mean, glow is on a lot of things, and I absolutely love glow. So also grids, we see grids here. There's some grids here, a lot of grids here and here. Grids are very popular. Again, the sun, lines, repeating shapes. This is really popular where you see shapes repeating in space. We'll do a little bit of that. We'll do a little bit of type. You know, you see some big blocky type. You also see some really different type of type in the 80s. I mean, just like type with in any genre, there's all types of different typefaces and fonts that we can use. We just have to settle on something, and we'll probably go with something pretty simple with type. Like I like this kind of blocky type. This neon type's cool, but a little too much. This is cool, the VHS here. Again, more glows, looking at the color palettes, kind of the shapes, very simple shapes being used. Lots of triangles, again, grids. Here's that image we talked about previously. Go ahead and close that one out. Came across this image, and I'm not sure which board this was on, but what I really liked about this was the very simple movement, how it just rotates around. It also kind of has this kind of streaky feel to it with the lights kind of streaking by. And that's really cool. Again, the glow is really cool. Really dig that a lot. Very simple motion, but it's very effective. Here we are back in Pinterest, and I tried a search here. So something that we can search for is something called synthwave art. And synthwave art gets a little bit away from the kind of the retro vibe. You can see that it doesn't have, if we come back to the original, like here's a great example right here. See how this is kind of washed out, the spheres, which will make a sphere. Everything is, it's got like a lot of noise in the imagery, these lines, and I can't enlarge this, but like if you look at these lines on the mountains here, or these hills, they're very squiggly. They've got like a lot of jagged edges to them. Same with these globes. The lines aren't perfect. They're jagged, right? I'm looking at that. The squiggly lines here. I'm also looking at how the colors are desaturated. That's pretty popular. Things are washed out, but yet they're still in focus. Looking at the color palettes again. But coming back here to synthwave art, you can see everything is very vibrant, very saturated, which is pretty common in synthwave art. And the only reason I know this stuff is because I've been looking at a lot of different imagery for synthwave art. And that's what I kind of like, I didn't go to school to be, you know, become a master of what is synthwave art, but I can tell by looking at all these images and these GIFs that things are very saturated, lots of pinks, purples, and blues and greens. But again, these are elements I can pull inspiration from. Here's a great one, how to easily create retro landscape with an 80s aesthetic. And this is kind of like a combination between synthwave and the retro. I really like the textures here being used. Again, the grids, the kind of desaturated colors, the glows, pretty cool stuff. Here's an image I found just searching Pinterest. And I thought it was cool because of the way the type is laid out with the different repeating colors here. So we're going from black to green to blue to dark blue to purple, kind of just through the spectrum down to yellow. And this next image is very similar as well. We're going white to green to purple to pink to yellow, orange and yellow. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to do something like this. Here again, Sunday, right? Something very similar. We're going to do something like this in our design today. Next, we've got something I love to use called Behance. And at behance.net, you have a Behance account with your Adobe subscription. And I'm assuming that most of you have an Adobe subscription if you're here trying to learn about After Effects. So behance.net, you can create mood boards as well. And it's very powerful. You can just put in very simple search terms like retro 80s or retro 80s neon. You can see that it gives you a lot of suggestions here of what you can use. So if we just look at retro 80s, you can see a lot of interesting imagery already. What's also cool about Behance is I can go in and if I want to minimize the creative fields that I'm looking at, I could type in motion or just click motion graphics. It's going to focus just on motion graphics here. Now that's something that I don't always do. A lot of times I leave all creative fields enabled because I get inspired from design that isn't just motion design. It can be architecture. It could be magazine layout. It could be many things, graphic design in general. So I want to keep that typically all creative fields. If I want to click on one of these pop-ups here, it's going to give me a little bit more refined search. So, like I said, I see a lot of things here that are pretty cool. Here's neon wave. You can see some distortion happening. We'll use a little bit of that. Vapor wave is another popular term to search for. More grids. Really cool type here. And you can always click on these and enlarge them and just really study like what makes this so retro-like. If you look really closely here, you're going to see there's a lot of noise in here, right? A lot of grain or noise is added to the image. Look at the lighting, these glint effects. These are really cool, kind of coming off different highlighting points of the type. Sapphire's got a really cool glint effect plugin that I highly recommend if you are looking for glint, Sapphire. I'm also looking at the way the type is reflecting like a gradient background from a black to a blue to a white. Gives the type some interesting appeal to look at. If this reflection wasn't here in all the type, it would just be white type, right? So we need something to reflect. Even the sky here at the top, it's really pretty. I like how they did that. And the extrusion of the type, and it's very metal-like, very chromatic. Really nice stuff. I'm also going to use things like I'm on Google here, and I typed in 80s motion graphics, and you're going to see a lot of different searches pop up here. Anywhere from sites like Envato, where you can buy assets, to just different artist websites, to a lot of different places. So, Google's always a great place to just look for inspiration. I use it all the time. Also, we've got Bing. I use Bing because Bing will typically give us more imagery than Google will. So if I put in retro motion graphics, I can search, see what it comes up with. It's going to give us more images here, typically, to pull from. And you can see that, again, there's a lot to look at here. So typically when I'm looking for inspiration for a project, for design and for animation, I am using Pinterest, Behance, Google, and Bing. I'm also going to use Instagram and maybe type out hashtag searches for 80s or neon or whatever I'm looking for, right? Just to get inspiration. That's kind of a fun GIF right there. I like that a lot. So that, my friends, is how I get inspired to create a certain style that maybe I'm not super comfortable with. Some artists, they focus in on one particular style and that's their thing. I pride myself on being more of a generalist, so I can do a lot of different styles. And if I don't work with a particular style all the time, like retro, then I need to be inspired and I need to understand what makes retro look great. And that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to search and build out mood boards to get inspired. Something else I want to mention very quickly is that I also get very highly inspired by listening to music while I'm designing or animating in a particular style. So working with retro, I'm going to search out artists like The Midnight, right? These guys create some awesome, killer retro style music. There's also groups, if you actually click on a group like The Midnight, you can go and you can find fans also like, and I'm using Spotify here, different bands that kind of have the same vibe, like FM84. This is a great band I like to listen to as well. Time Cop 1983 is a great one. There's some of these artists I've never heard of, and there's always new ones popping up. But I can come over here. I can also see fans also like, here we go, Time Cop 1985, Droid Bishop. A lot of different artists out there, Kalax or Kalax, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But this is a great way to also be inspired when creating any type of design in motion design. So listen to the music, look at the visuals, get inspired. That, my friends, is how I get inspired to create any style of motion design. Next, let's move on to actually creating our very first scene.